Good evening, everyone. It's Denise. Welcome back to Dobby Books. Tonight, I'm going to respond to Robert G., reader of books. He completed the first of the Roman Emperor's books, Augustus. And for each of us who have read Augustus, we're now going to give a little bit of a review on our experience with the book that we've chosen. So I'm going to go ahead and answer those questions that he posted on his website. And I chose, for one, the book entitled Augustus, by Anthony Everitt. I believe Roberts was a different one. It's sort of this, I don't remember the last name, but Roberts was a little bit different. So I think that Anthony Everitt did a very good job. He did cover, besides the standard fare, which is, the political, the wars and the conquests and the treaties and such. Everitt also covered home life, friendships, personal life, life in Rome. So he gave a good overall picture for us. He covered the layers below the top ones, basically, is what I put it. And I think that's what kept this book so enjoyable. It wasn't the more traditional list of actions per se and the outcomes, but just the everyday things that I think add a nice balance to an historical record. Also, the next question is, what do I think of Augustus as a leader? I really think he was fair. He always strove to be fair. And I see that reflected in his friendships. I see that reflected in how he treated those who came to speak with him in person. This is something he always continued to do, even after he didn't really need the PR per se, when he was working his way up the ladder, if you will. He continued this practice. So I see in him a sense of fairness and a consideration for the general population. I think that's commendable. What do I think of him as a military leader? I don't think that was his strength. I think that's pretty obvious. It wasn't his strength. But what I did notice is that he had the dedication of his troops. They were loyal to him, not out of fear, but I think because they genuinely believed in him and had respect for him. And that is a strength as a leader in general, and especially useful as a military leader. What do I think of him politically? Well, if he was a man of fairness, and if he was a man who respected friendships and trying to give ear to the common person, then I think politically his decisions reflected that. There was a Pax Romana that started somewhere in his reign, and it lasted even beyond his life. So I think whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, it says a lot about him as a political leader. As far as how he treated his friends, how he treated other people, again, I think that when it came to his friends, and those people that came to speak with him, like the common person who got an appointment to speak with him in person, how he would listen patiently, whatever, I think that reflected a person who really desired to give the benefit of the doubt to the person. He allowed the other person to prove their worth rather than making a decision ahead of time. And as far as friendships go, I think he was definitely dedicated to those friendships. And I think that may have motivated him when he had to make some hard decisions. Rather than killing a person for a proven or suspected betrayal, he would exile them instead. So that, I think, says a lot for a man of that much power, to make a decision like that rather than the obvious, well, execute them, I think that says a lot about the leader. His strength, again, was his patience. When you think, why would someone choose to be patient? Because I think he understood there was something important, perhaps to be learned or heard. And I think in general, he valued people. And I don't know, we probably don't know enough about his personal life to know what may have brought that about. He had a good upbringing. He wasn't necessarily destitute, where he just worked his way from the bottom to the top. So yes, he was going to understand what it was like to be hungry and worried about your safety and security. He never experienced that, but maybe, I'm guessing, he saw enough of that, maybe, and it just moved him because he was just that kind of person. And he didn't want to be known as someone perhaps that was indifferent to that. It mattered to him to be a person, a good person. So that's what I think on that. His weakness, I think he was just a very nervous person. Obviously, he had a very nervous stomach. He would just become physically ill from the worry and the anxiety, and it affected his GI system. It completely disabled him. I know people like that. Maybe they don't get as sick as Octavian got, but yeah. My sister, for one, had a terribly nervous stomach. And there was one time she really wanted to date this one guy in high school. He finally asked her out, and she had to break off the date because she was just such a ball of nerves. She was throwing up and she couldn't function because she was just so nervous. I know people like that. And they really can't eat that well because their stomachs are the ones that react. It just seems, and they just can't help it. And I'm thinking Octavian probably had something like that, just a system that manifested its emotions in that physical manner, and he did not know how to control that. And as far as having him over for dinner, oh, absolutely. I think there were good qualities in him as a human being that I would be very curious to speak with him, to hear him, what he has to say, questions I would ask. What would I ask? My gosh. When you think of the 4 zillion things that'd be great to ask, I think I might ask him what he thinks of the current political climate going on right now in the USA. Just if he felt comfortable, what are his thoughts on that? I probably wouldn't be too surprised with his responses, I guess. He might see some good and bad in that. Yeah, but I would want to ask him about specific people. And I also think I would also ask him on a personal sense what sort of advice he would give to a person, like your everyday person who has who wants to do things, accomplish some things in life. What did he learn that was most valuable, that really mattered a lot to him toward the end of his life as he reflected? What was it, looking back on his life, that he learned was the better thing, the more valuable thing? I think that's something I would ask him as well. And that's it. And I've gone ahead and ordered the next book on Tiberius. It's written by Robin Seager, and I believe that's the one that Robert's going to be reading as well. Don't order it from Barnes & Noble. It's listed as $155, paperback. And I looked it up at Amazon. It's $30-some, $34. I prefer to order from Bookshop, and bookshop.org has it for sale for $43 and change. A little bit more, but I'm willing, I want to support the local bookstore, so I'm ordering mine from Bookshop. And that's that, everybody. Thank you very much, and thank you, Robert, for tagging me. Have a good night, everyone.